Good morning. It is Thursday, March 21st, and so I want to just give some updates on things that are happening in the garden. This will be a part 1 and part 2 video series because first I just want to give an overview of some things, and I have my notes here, some things that we are planting next in the garden, some things that we've learned, and some video editing strategies or things that I've been doing for my videos, so that if you've noticed like a change in like my descriptions and all the things, just to give you some feedback on where that is coming from, or how that is happening. And then the other update, which will be the part 2, will be a garden check-in. Because we did fertilize everything on Sunday. Now, I don't have the expectation that there will be a total difference within a week. However, I do want to do a week-by-week check-in just to see how things are going and growing in the garden. So just some reminders, I am in Zone 8A, Alabama. And so we are having a few drizzles of rain at the moment, and I hope that it's not impacting the sound quality of my video. So yeah, so let's get started. So first, I want to focus on what we are planting next. And so I still haven't gotten out of the mindset that, sometimes I feel like I'm behind in my gardening, even though now I think I am in year 2. I believe I started my journey in 2024, and so now we are in 2026. And so one day I may get out of that once I truly figure out what my system looks like and what works for my zone. But as I mentioned in other videos, being a full-time mom, working a full-time job, and still wanting to provide healthy food for my family, as well as it's been a stress reliever for me, and just doing all the things, I still haven't, all that to say, I still haven't figured out the correct system of tracking for me, as well as like succession planting. So I'm still, learning as I grow. That's the primary statement that I use in my videos. So first things first, what we're planting next. So I am using my Learning as You Grow garden tracker, and so I have it in my binder here. This is available in our Etsy shop, and there's a link to there's a link to this in our description. So if this is something that you're interested in, please check it out, or just share it with somebody who may be interested and don't know where to start. Just a quick overview. So the first half, you'll get 2 documents or files once you purchase this. And so one of the, you'll get 3 files. One is just a welcome. The second one is the actual booklet, and then the third is the garden tracker. So my recommendation is to use the booklet as a digital document, so you can just read through it, learn, take notes. I wouldn't necessarily print this if we want to keep it budget friendly. I would just recommend actually printing the tracker. And so the booklet just gives you just some details of, it has a table of content section, and then you can see some of these example pages on the Etsy link, but it also just gives you some advice from things that I've grown in my garden, some realistic tips of some things that have happened. Some of the subjects that I cover include planning out your season, and that's something I'm going to discuss today. Other things I discuss are starting from seed on a budget. Another area that I speak to is what to plant your seedlings in, because that's something important. Transplanting them outside. The importance of pollinators. I love my pollinators. And then I have a troubleshooting guide. But again, I would keep that in a digital format, so you can refer back to it. There are also some pictures from my garden that is included in that PDF, and of course do not print those. You want to save on your ink. But I would say print the growing season tracker for sure, and put it in either a binder or a folder. Now you will see too that with the growing season tracker, I have a spring and summer growing season tracker that is provided for you, as well as a fall and winter. But for me right now, I'm using the spring summer growing tracker. And so the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go to my vegetable spreadsheet. And something that I did is I actually updated this spreadsheet. I extended it. So there are two different versions you can choose from. If you want the simple version, then it just includes like the date your seeds were started, the seed type and brand. If you want to be specific to the types of trays that you use so you can keep up with it. When you should expect things to germinate, so you would pull that from your seed packet, as well as when you should check to see if things have germinated or grown. So I did an extended version, and it includes some of the same things, but I have your germination time and your check date, when you should check that things have germinated, as well as your bloom time based upon your packaging, when your things should bloom and when you should check those. And then I have 3 columns for you to keep track of when you fertilize. And so in my mind, I'm thinking every week, especially if you are using a liquid fertilizer, but it's different if you're going to be using the granulated fertilizer. And so this is what that looks like. And so, like I said, this is available on our Etsy shop. All right, so the first thing I want to touch base on is the things that we plan to grow next. And before I forget this, there are different sections within the grow season tracker. So there's a section for vegetables, for fruit, for herbs, as well as flowers. So feel free to print which section is most applicable to you. So what I need to succession plant for sure in the next day so I can get it out in my garden. So the great thing is, being that I'm totally past my frost date, once they germinate on the inside and they have just a little height on them, I'm going to go ahead and transplant it out in the garden. I don't have to wait like I did when I first started growing things in like January and February, waiting for the frost date. I don't have to wait on that because I'm past that worry. So something for sure is I need to get some more lettuce out. Lettuce has been the easiest thing for me to grow. I love growing lettuce in my garden. My different seed packets have come primarily from Dollar Tree. I've had success with those, but they may not have them in, your local Dollar Trees right now. But there's still some seed packets available in Walmart. There may be some at Home Depot. There may be some in Lowe's. But I prefer the seed packets from Dollar Tree because they are budget friendly. Like this says 3 for $1.50. If you can see that, that's my preference. But again, you can get seeds from other places, and then you can always order some online. So something for sure is my black seeded Simpson lettuce. I need to start different varieties of lettuce. I also want to start some bunching onions, some Swiss chard, and some more cucumbers. And something else I've considered is growing another succession of tomatoes, just so that I can have some in the fall. This will be my first time doing that, growing some for the fall. But I think that is something that I am wanting to do, succession plant. And I am using my, these are my storage containers for my seeds. This is a photo keeper that I bought from Hobby Lobby, and I still have the label on it. And these were $12.99, and they come with the individual photo keeper little containers. And so all I did was use a marker to write the different, like this says lettuce and spinach. And so I I just put my little seed packets in here, so I don't have to worry about them getting wet or anything like that. And then I had also wrote just some of the information on little index card so I can keep up with, you know, how many packets or seed varieties that I have. Now, have I been keeping up with that like I should? I have not, but I have been keeping up with them being sorted in these containers. So I have one for my veggies and my fruit, and herbs are all in here, and then this one is specifically for flowers. All right, so those are my veggies. So the next thing I plan to grow is some more fruit. So primarily I want to succession plant some more watermelon, especially for my family here as well as my family in Mississippi, because we love watermelon. And so I'm excited to see that so far they are healthy in my garden, the seedlings. I haven't been successful with growing watermelon in the past. Like, they started out at like baseball size, or I grew them to like baseball size, and then they didn't grow anymore. But what I've learned is that once you have one that is growing on your vine, you need to take the other ones off so that that plant can concentrate on that one. Otherwise, it's going to be competing between the different ones that are growing. So I'm going to try that and see what happens. The next thing will be herbs. I love growing herbs and flowers as companion plants. One thing I love growing is basil. I do have some in my garden, but I need a little bit more. I love growing dill, and I love when the dill goes to seed because my pollinators love it. And my dill, it was really tall one growing season. Borage, I love growing it as well. And then I'm going to try to grow some more parsley and cilantro. Now, cilantro is not as heat tolerant, but I'm still gonna try to grow some more of that. I do have what I refer to as my herb tower, and I haven't been successful in like germinating herbs really. Well, I've been successful, let me go back, in growing from seed, but once I transplant, they don't do well. I've also tried the direct sowing. That didn't do well, so I'm still learning when it comes to herbs. But I have been successful in the past with my herbs in growing basil, dill, borage. I've been successful with those. Hit or miss, I guess I can say that. Parsley, it was my first time growing it from seed, and it's looking good, and you'll see that in my garden check-in. And then cilantro, I've been good with that. The ones I have not been good with include like the rosemary, the mint, the oregano, the thyme, the chamomile, chives. I have not been good with growing those, so I'm still learning as I grow with those. And then the last thing would be flowers. I love companion planting flowers. And I want to add and say this. One reason you want to companion plant is because it can help with pests. For sure help with pests. And then that can decrease the other products that you use that can help with pests. And then it just adds beauty to the garden. So I love flowers. And so what I want to do is grow some more cosmos, more marigolds, more nasturtiums, sunflowers, and then of course zinnias. I love zinnias. So those are the things that I want to succession plant. Something that I noticed and I wanted to highlight was that in my prior video I had mentioned about my flowers based upon the packaging should be ready in 35 days. And so, you know, I had wrote my bloom time, estimated bloom time based upon my packaging. However, let me just say, for example, like my zinnias, my Ferrymore's, let's see, these are burpy. Because on the packaging, it will tell you when to expect your flowers to bloom. And as well as your other packaging, depending on the brand, it will tell you when to expect them to germinate, you know, any of your seeds, whether that's veggie, herbs, fruit, or flowers. It will give you an estimate of when the seeds should germinate, as well as when it's time for harvest. So that's my way of saying bloom. So take this one for instance, like the Fairy Morse zinnias. Now on the packaging, it says 35 days to bloom. And so I was like, okay, 35 days, you know. And so when I looked at my flowers, it was close to the 35 days, and I'm like, they haven't bloomed. But when you look closer on the packaging, it says 35 to 60 days. So 35 can be an initial, but you need to give them up to 60. And you know, being that I've been gardening for a little bit now, that's something that, of course, I should know. But, you know, hey, we're learning as we grow. So anyway, that's just something I wanted to highlight, in that even though it may say 35 days to bloom, just make sure you look at your packaging to see if there's some additions to that. So I need to give my flowers up to 60 days. Another thing I mentioned in a prior video is that you just need to be mindful of the zone that you're in. It may be a good growing environment for whatever you're planting. It may not be the best environment, so it may take it a little while longer, or they may bloom earlier. You just never know. But what I love about gardening is, again, you are learning as you grow, especially as it relates to your zone. And so that's the exciting part for me. Okay, and then the last thing I want to highlight, well, two more things. Something new that I've learned, and I don't know when I'll implement it, but I've learned about swales and hugel beds and how they can be beneficial in helping to keep your garden watered, as well as providing, the hugel beds can provide some extra nutrition. So if that's something you're interested in, I just learned about this yesterday, but it is exciting. So swales are spelled S-W-A-L-E-S and hugel beds are H-U-G-E-L. Those are two new things I learned about yesterday that I would want to consider long-term for my garden, but I need to get some more information about those. The other thing I wanted to highlight is how I'm editing my videos, because you may have noticed that there's a change in my descriptions, and as well as like the different timestamps. And so how I'm doing that is I record my video like what I'm doing now, then I upload that video to CapCut. I'm using a free account, and I'm using the version on my computer. And so what happens is, once I upload my video, there's an option to click a transcript button, and I click it, and my entire transcript from the video, it uploads to the another little screen inside the main screen. So I copy my transcript and I place it in Claude AI. Now I do use the paid version of $20 a month for that. I put it in Claude, and so I tell Claude to format it for me. Okay, I've kind of trained it in a way, and I keep it in this one folder that formatted for YouTube. I need a description, I need timestamps. Also give me a little caption for my other social media platforms, such as Instagram and TikTok. And so it does that for me. And then I also ask it to format that same transcript into a blog post, because we also have a blog. And so that's how I'm able to, you know, do all the things when it comes to recording my videos, and trying to be consistent and be systematic in how I am posting. And so far that is working for me. And so something else I do is I look through just to make sure what is produced is authentic to me, because of course it's pulling the exact transcript from what I'm saying, but you still have to be mindful that AI can sometimes add some flair to your words. And so you want your, whatever the output is, to be consistent with who you are, and what you're trying to project to your audience. And so yeah, so those are the things I wanted to highlight and talk about in this video. So this is just part one, and then part two will be us, or me, talking about the garden, giving you a check-in. So I think it's not drizzling as bad. And so it sounds like the rain is just rolling off the roof now. And so, and hitting the top of this gazebo. So what I'll do now is I'm going to go ahead and film part 2. Just do a quick check-in just to see how everything is looking. We are expected to have rain over the next week. And so I want to go ahead and get this video done just to try and give just a weekly update on what is happening in the garden. All right. As always, I am learning as I grow. I appreciate you for being on this journey with me, and I will chat with you soon. Bye.